It's the Flex Network. Flex on everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network. I'm your host, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. I am joined by an original OG of the Flex Network, Flex Mike. You can follow him on Twitter at FlexMike11. Mike, what the hell is going on, brother?
Nothing, man. Excited for another week of football here, and high school football coach myself. We're fresh off a win last night, so I don't I don't wake up this morning just being mad at the world. So that's always a good thing.
That's fantastic. I gotta ask, so normally you've got your green screen going, but we
Yeah.
can see the whiteboard behind you. How come there's no X's and O's? There's no plays being drawn up? Like, don't you want to look legitimate in front of your players and stuff?
Yeah, so the whiteboard is in our weight room and in the coaches area and stuff. We're just here at the house, but if we were, I guess if we were in the weight room and all that good stuff, we'd have some stuff drawn up. So
Sounds like a lot of excuses, Mike. Jennifer,
Yeah.
good morning. How you doing? Thanks for watching today, brother. So it's been like months, I want to say, since we've last actually recorded together. Lots
Yeah.
happened. We're already in week
Yeah.
6 of the NFL.
For sure, yeah. Lots of. I think it's been a while since I've even just been on the Flex Network airwaves as a whole, but yeah, so crazy things going on in the NFL. Fantasy is booming. I'll tell you,
Fantasy
every year, week 1, I'm like, I have that moment where I'm like opening up the apps that I use for fantasy football. For me, it's mostly Sleeper, but opening up those apps and just having that moment of reflection where I'm like, man, I'm so glad football's back. I love fantasy football. And then the week after that, I lose by 0.003 or something crazy like that. And I'm like, dude, I love and hate fantasy football at the same exact time. It's crazy.
That's when you remember that fantasy football freaking hurts, man. Like,
Yeah.
so our girl Jen, who's watching right now, she's got like AJ Brown, CMC, Justin Jefferson, who at least he's coming through the last couple of weeks, but he had a slow start to the season.
Yeah.
AJ Brown right now, man. Like, so this week, Indy's playing Tennessee, or excuse me, Tennessee is playing Buffalo, and that's the Monday night game. It should be a bit of a shootout. Can you start AJ Brown right now? Like, are you comfortable starting him in your fantasy league, Mike?
I'm not, because like he's that freak, right? The best comparable is like when you really kind of look back at everything, you're like, dude, DK Metcalf and AJ Brown were on the same football team, and Ole Miss wasn't, they weren't good. Like, that's what people forget. But like with AJ Brown, although the build is very similar between him and DK Metcalf, their games are, they're you would think that they would be similar. They're not very similar. AJ Brown's a guy that's very physical. If it were me and I was coaching AJ Brown, I would do whatever I could to get him running some short routes just to get the ball in his hands in space and let him be physical,
That's how they played him when he was a rookie, right? Like when he was a rookie and even last year, like that's how they were getting him. They're getting the ball in his hands on a slant route, and then they were he's taking it to the house every time. I mean, honestly, Ryan Tannehill hasn't looked as sharp. King Henry, though, I mean, he's just looking dominant. So I guess they're saying, okay, let's put the ball in his hand. But the truth is, it hasn't been impressive. And right now, like the Titans are 3-2. Okay, so what they're doing is kind of working, but are they really that much better than the Colts? I mean, yes, they're better than the Texans. Yes, they're better than the Jaguars. But I feel like freaking Titans, they need to really get their best players involved. And at this point, AJ Brown, who has 10 total receptions and 1 touchdown on the season, it's just not happening.
Yeah, so for me, I look at it in 2 ways. There's 2 major variables in I guess in the equation for the Tennessee Titans right now. Number 1 being Derrick Henry's there, right? You don't have a guy like that who is that good without having a run-first offense, which is what they have and what they like, and they've shown already this season that they are successful with that. Number 2 being we watched Ryan Tannehill in Miami stink it up, and we watched him come to Tennessee and have a little bit of success. But at the same time, I still don't trust him. and he's not going to be that guy. He's not going to be that guy that's going to thread the needle and do all these great things. And so those are the two major factors for me. It's a reason I didn't draft Julio or AJ Brown, just because I'm not prepared to draft those guys knowing that they really just want to get the ball to Derrick Henry. And why wouldn't you want to get the ball to Derrick Henry? He's virtually unstoppable right now.
You're right, but AJ Brown was one of the most efficient wide receivers in the league last year.
Yeah,
and obviously that made Ryan Tannehill efficient, but he is one of the best wide receivers in the game right now. So it's just, I guess if they're getting it done, they're 3-2. They're the top team in the AFC South, and honestly, there's not a lot of competition, so maybe they're just going to coast. But you think if they're going to coast to the playoffs, they'd want to save the big dog a little bit, right? Like, can this man really handle 30 touches a game? I don't know. Maybe he can. So far, he can, I guess.
Well, he's an old school style runner when it comes to physicality. A lot of backs nowadays, if you get, I remember earlier in the 2000s watching DeMarco Murray play for the Dallas Cowboys, and him taking, I think that his last season in Dallas, he averaged about 25 to 27 carries a game. Like, they were feeding the horse, right? Derrick Henry's that old school style. Nowadays, running backs can't handle that workload. They get too banged up. They're not used to physicality. But Derrick Henry has that frame and that build to be able to do that.
Well, so here's the thing with Derrick Henry. I joke when I say he's getting 30 touches a game. He's literally getting 28.4 touches per game. That's what he's trending. Here's the thing that's crazy. He's had 15 targets, 14 receptions. Like, if you would have known that he would have been on pace for close to 50 receptions for the season, he would have been drafted. I think CMC would have been a 101 without question. I still think that, because CMC is he's an absolute monster. But like, Derrick Henry would have been smashed 2 overall if you were drafting today, which is crazy. So here's I got a league tilting trade that went down last night in one of my leagues. The all important, actually, the Banana Hammock Boy roster watch league. Our boy Barron traded away to Sully from freaking Houston, no less. He traded away. So listen to this trade, okay? So Sully's first in the league right now, and Barron is just absolutely shitting the bed right now with his team. But he traded away his Derrick Henry and Kadarius Toney for Tyler Lockett and Zach Moss. Like, that's an absolute swindle by Sully, right? Like, Sully got freaking Kadarius Toney, who's on the rise. He absolutely balled out last week. I guess Sterling Shepard's coming back this week. But when you got your first round pick, who just showed you that he can actually produce as a first round talent and then some, plus, that's right, the best running back in the game right now who's still freaking healthy, who conceivably is going to be healthy all season. For Tyler Lockett, who has Russ just went on IR, Chris Carson's on IR, so that offense is obviously going to be scaled back a little bit. And then Zach Moss, are we even sure Zach Moss is a starting RB in Buffalo right now with Devin Singletary there? I mean, I get he's getting more touches the last couple of weeks, but any given week he can flip the switch. And that's right, Zach Moss is meh at best. So that tilted me last night. Baron, I see you. I love you. I hate that trade. Hate it.
Yeah, that, when I look at that running back situation in Buffalo, even as I was, I'm in a couple of those leagues that are just the redraft every year, and when it came to those Buffalo running backs, it's one of those things that I just kind of, I'm like, let me watch this situation. As the draft was starting to unfold, I was like, let me watch this situation. Let me see if I can get one of these guys kind of late, because it is a situation where it was 55-45 as far as the percentage that they were sharing in the backfield, right? And a lot of teams are starting to do that nowadays, so all the work's not on one guy. I get Zach Moss lately has been taking most of the workload because Singletary's been kind of banged up. And they haven't been using him in the way that they probably would like to. But at the same time, Josh Allen has kind of stepped up as far as like throwing the ball down the field and stuff like that. So they haven't really had to rely on the run as heavy. But yeah, I'm a Seattle fan, so when I look at the Tyler Lockett situation, I'm like, well, we got Geno Smith throwing him the ball now, so we don't really know what that's going to look like. We know that Geno in that Thursday night game was able to connect with DK, and that was nice to see.
Oh, that was tantalizing, baby.
Yeah,
He looked good too doing it, right? Like he
yeah,
looked good doing it.
yeah. So we'll see what that looks like going forward. Obviously, in that situation, but if we're betting in this whole scenario, you got to say that Seattle's offense is going to take a step back just because Geno's not Russ, right? And if Geno comes out and wins 3 out of 4 or something like that, kind of when Drew Brees got hurt a couple years ago with the Saints and Teddy Bridgewater came in and went 5-0, it would have to be shocking like that for us to even think that was remotely a fair trade, so.
Yeah, it's just honestly, it was just not good. It's just not good. And
good swindle though, if you can pull it off, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is, like, the Seahawks need to go. Russ is going to miss at least 3 games on IR, right? So if they can go 2-1, that they'll be in pretty good shape. Because right now they're sitting behind the Cards, who are 5-0, and the Rams that are 4-1. So at best, right now the Seahawks are playing for that wild card.
Yeah,
and man. They got a lot of competition. The Bears look decent enough, right now. The Cowboys are looking good. I mean, they're going to win their division, but
yeah,
they could still sneak in. It's going to probably be between them, the Panthers, the Bears. I mean, shit, the 49ers are 2-3, but if they were to go on a run right now, would anybody be surprised? I don't think so. So it's going to be tough. I mean, we came into the season knowing that the NFC West was going to dominate the NFC in general, and so far they've been doing that. What's going on, Bali? How you doing? We got a question from Bali. What are your thoughts this week on Alex Collins?
Yeah, I love that question because he's someone that is very different from Chris Carson, right? Chris Carson's downhill, physical. He'll run through your face if he has to. Chris Carson is actually, in my opinion, a very underrated pass catcher for a running back. He's I think 4 of his first 6 touchdowns last season were on receptions. And so that's nice to see from a running back, especially when he's not labeled, when it's not a CMC where you're like, oh, he does that, But
what about DJ Dallas, though?
No.
You don't like DJ Dallas at all? No.
I do like DJ Dallas. He's not in front of Alex Collins. When Alex Collins comes in, he brings in football is what we call it. He brings the juice. He's got a little bit of bounce to him. He's got a little.
That's the official term.
Juice. The official term is juice. He uses his hips really well. He's got a nice jump cut. If you really understand like the game of football and just kind of the running back position, you understand what I mean by jump cut. It's that one step, jumps to the inside as a cut and can really take people, you can take someone's ankles that way. And he proved his ability to do that. I would like to see him get more carries. The only thing that's limiting him right now is Seattle has a lot of rotating offensive linemen right now. We just pulled a lineman off of IR, so that's a good sign moving forward. But yeah, we haven't been healthy on the line, which has kind of stifled the run game a little bit. But I like Alex Collins. I would not expect him to be this world beater by any means, but I think he is good enough to do the job. People forget that he was a 1,000-yard back with the Baltimore Ravens a few years back.
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, he was never like really one of those elite guys, but he had those games because of that burst, he could put up the long touchdown, and that's kind of what you're hoping for at this point, I would say. But I mean, this is actually a good segue to a subject that I want to talk about. This is kind of the week, maybe it's the season of the backup running back. I mean, you look through the league right now, and Cleveland. Nick Chubb was ruled out. So Kareem Hunt is a starting starting running back, but Demetric Felton, I think he looks decent. He's got a lot of burst. He played wide receiver in college. So would you be comfortable? I mean, we're going to talk about some of our flex plays a little bit later. I don't have Demetric Felton as a flex play, but I picked him up in a league to keep on my bench just to kind of wait and see what happens. Demetric Felton, any takes on that at all? Cleveland, of course, going against Arizona, so it's going to be a high-scoring game. 48.5 over/under or point total for the game.
So I don't know if I'd feel comfortable starting him by any means, but I would feel comfortable doing what you did, which is snag him up to watch to see what happens. I've done that with other players before where I've just snagged someone just to be like, let me put them on my bench, see how they perform. And it always I end up starting them the wrong week.
Yeah, of course.
Like they score like 28 on your bench, and then when you start them, they score 4, and you're like, man, I can't catch a break here. But
so this is kind of one of the questions though. It's like, so do you play DFS at all, Mike, or no?
yes,
I dabble in it, but okay, so you play
yeah,
DFS. So that's really always the question every week, right? It's backup running backs. Do you trust starting? Kareem Hunt, I think he's like 7,400 on FanDuel. He's not priced like a backup, but he's one of those guys that if you can jam him into your lineup, I recommend doing it. A guy who I'm still like, I'm wishy-washy about is a guy like Daryl Williams. With CEH out, can you trust him against Kansas City or for Kansas City this week? Going up against Washington, it's going to be probably a shootout of a game, but CEH wasn't getting the touches. Why the hell are they going to then give it to Daryl Williams when you just let Patrick Mahomes ball out?
Yeah, I agree. This kind of goes into some flex play stuff a little bit, but I'll go ahead and mention it. So the Chiefs this week have the Washington football team, I believe. Washington football team last year averaged around 2.6 yards per carry to running backs, which isn't bad. It's not good either. I mean, it's probably top half of the league. But this year, Washington is giving up over 4.8 a carry. So if the time for Kansas City to unleash someone or unleash Daryl Williams, this would probably be that week, depending on what the CEH injury looks like and how long they expect him to be out. Washington has been giving up almost double what they gave up last year. So, I mean, the guy's he's 6'1", 225. He's a good size back. He just lacks he lacks the top end speed, and he lacks a little bit of finesse. But this year they've been putting him in goal line situations anyway, and so I would be curious to see what he looks like going forward. And that's a matchup that I'm kind of watching this weekend, because if I'm Kansas City, I need to get right in a hurry.
They should route Washington.
Yeah,
they really should route them.
They should, but there's been a few of those games this year already. Like when I looked at the game we just saw recently, the Baltimore and Indianapolis game, I'm like, Baltimore should route Indianapolis, and they didn't. And they really
Indy was up for most of that game. Then of course they blew it.
Yeah, they had to make a comeback, but still, in my mind, I'm like, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Mark Andrews, who absolutely balled out, all that stuff. I'm not really talking about that game, but I'm just saying those are things that are comparable to Kansas City. When you look at Kansas City, you're like, man, you have all the superstars, and Washington doesn't really have. Washington has a guy who played in the XFL as their starting quarterback right now, so you should be. You should be.
Taylor Heineke, I think you got to give him credit, man. He's been playing pretty well.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so what about Chuba Hubbard? Carolina this week going up against Minnesota. Guy you comfortable starting, even as a flex?
I would start him. Just because the offense can function without it having to be all on his shoulders. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be. Like when CMC's in there, they're like, okay, let's our play design, our plan, our strategy here is to use him to frustrate defenses, because he's that utility knife. He can do a bunch of things. Chuba Hubbard's more of your traditional, and so I would like to see them. I mean, I'm a DJ Moore owner in fantasy, so I'm like, you just feed that guy, man. I don't care.
Feed DJ Moore. Oh my God, Mike. You and I have been lamenting about DJ Moore for the last, probably 2 or 3 seasons. It's finally time. Yeah. He's finally broken out. We haven't even talked about DJ Moore yet. Like, I like to think that, look, Sam Darnold is, let's call him a better than average starting quarterback. I think he's proven that, right? I mean, he's getting it done in fantasy, mainly by the rushing touchdowns. But the thing that we care about most about these middling quarterbacks, I think like a Derek Carr is like a similar type player, is we want to know, are they going to make the skill players on that team fantasy viable? And look, I get, unfortunately, if you're a Robbie Anderson fantasy manager, you're disappointed so far this season. I joke around with Brandon all the time that Terrace Marshall is the wide receiver 2 on that team, but DJ Moore, man, he's getting fed targets. He's finally getting touchdowns. And look, he's probably hopefully going to get that 1,400 yards. If he can go and get over 100 receptions and get 7, 8, 9 touchdowns, like that's more than what you would have expected. And that's kind of, well, that was always the expectation that he could do that, and he's finally doing it. So that's just a little DJ Moore tangent.
Yeah.
We're finally there. Okay, so this is one that really interests me, okay? So David Montgomery obviously is out. He's been out for the last couple of weeks. Last week, Damian Williams and Khalil Herbert, pretty much, they literally had 50-50 in terms of being on the field. But Damian Williams is likely going to miss this week because of COVID. Now, he still might play. I haven't seen the news if he's been updated, but he needs 2 negative tests. Khalil Herbert, is this a guy that you were comfortable starting? Well, I think he's a smash start if he's definitely the lone back in that backfield. But say Damian Williams is able to play tomorrow. Are you comfortable starting either of these guys? Or if you had to choose one, who would you prefer?
Oh, what a question.
This one's a tough one. This is what we do, baby.
Yeah.
And you can say either or, like flip the coin, because that's also an answer too, right? That's acceptable.
Yeah, I think in this situation, I would probably flip the coin, but but if there was a standalone guy, I would probably just want to go with Damian Williams, just because I've seen it, just because I've seen him before, and
Super Bowl MVP, Damian Williams. Oh wait, he got swindled out of that Super Bowl.
He should have been the Super Bowl MVP, but yeah, I don't know. That really is a tough one because just in a situation there, and then on top of everything else, do I trust Nagy at all to even make the calls to put those guys in a situation? I'm not, we're not Bears fans, but like even non-Bears fans can look at that and be like, that's a fan base that is probably pretty frustrated with their head coach. And so I would want to, that's why I would say flip the coin, because you don't know.
Yeah. I have a selfish question for you. So in one of my super flex leagues, I've got bye weeks. And so I am making the decision. I've got Justin Fields in my lineup right now, so Justin Fields, Chicago going against Green Bay, low over under 44 points. My boy, Mr. Mac Jones, is also on the waiver wire right now. I'm trying to decide if I should pick him up. Of course, the Pats are playing Dallas this week. Could be a shootout. Could also be the type of game where New England wants to scale back the Dallas offense, because no question about it, the Dallas offense is superior to the Patriots offense right now. Are you comfortable holding your nose, playing Justin Fields, just praying that Nagy, the sky parts, the heavens shine down, and he actually lets Justin Fields get unleashed? Or the conservative play in Mac Jones? Right now, I go for upside. We always tell our listeners, go for upside in your fantasy leagues. I got Justin Fields in there. Am I crazy to be starting Justin Fields, who's gotten like 14 points a game so far this season?
So if it were me, I would lean towards Justin Fields.
Okay.
The Bears are playing the Packers. Although the Packers are 4-1, I believe. They are 4-1, but they're like an ugly 4-1. They're very reliant on the Rodgers to Davonte Adams connection, and nothing else has really came out of the wash for
Jones
them.
Has played decent.
Yeah, I just mean like as far as their offense goes, like Davonte Adams is the only one getting targets. Davonte Adams is a stud. Don't get me wrong. But but it's one guy, you know what I mean? So, and then I look. I still don't trust Nagy, then I look over on the New England Dallas side, right? Dallas's defense, with the addition of Dan Quinn, has definitely improved. They've turned into not the best defense, but they've turned into a opportunistic defense. So
Trayvon Diggs, man, he's had an interception every single week. Although he's questionable this week, I think that's a huge game changer.
Well, 2 weeks ago, the Philly game, I believe, they were like blowing him out. So he basically sat the second half of the fourth quarter. And so that's a decent amount of time to just not be on the field and to trust someone else. And so in that moment, everyone was like, oh, he's just getting rest, but you saw him limping and stuff like that. So there's something there that's probably aggravating him. But yeah, so back on the opportunistic, there opportunities to get interceptions and fumbles when it comes to tip balls. They're very alert. They're not exactly like jumping routes and getting picks in that way, but they are as the what do they say? All the football coaches across the world say, take what the other team gives you, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to give you something, that's what they're doing. They're just jumping in and taking what's given to them, and so can't blame them for that. As I look at Mac Jones, there's a little bit to, if I'm New England, I probably say, man, I wish that we had a couple more weapons to help him out, because I think that he can play. The issue is that he doesn't have a whole lot surrounding him right now. So
Jacoby Myers is still unable to get into the end zone. He literally has not scored a touchdown in his career, which is staggering. It's absolutely staggering. And then look, some of the other weapons that they've got, like Nelson Aguilar, he's kind of what we thought he was, right? Like he had the boom year in Vegas last year, which is how he got the contract this year. But and then they've got the two tight ends. Hunter Henry's finally starting to come on a little bit, which we like, but it's not sexy, man. And we kind of knew this going in. I would say that Mac Jones, again, this is just Patriots fan, not necessarily as like a fantasy take, but he's looked good, man. I think he's looked good against Tampa. They gave him. They had Tampa against the ropes, right? They could have won that game easily. They didn't. I think, the better team won. Tampa is a better team, in my opinion. But look, I would say that the Patriots are quietly tanking, right? You're not going to trade Stephon Gilmore away, or, effectively cutting him. What did they get, like a 6th-round pick or something like that from Carolina?
Yeah.
You're not going to do that if you think you've got a legitimate chance at the playoffs this year. So I think it's going to be one of those situations where they want Mac to learn. They're going to probably continue to give him more and more every single week, but he's not somebody I really want to start in fantasy, which is why I'm not going to start him this week in fantasy, even though I'm kind of desperate with my quarterback position for my super flex. But hey, man, that kind of is what it is. All right, so I got one more for you. All right. The great Saquon Barkley started slow. He was recovering. He's now out this week. Davonte Booker, man. The Giants are going up against the Rams. That's a scary, scary front seven. Are you playing Davonte Booker this week, or are you saying, listen, I've been swindled too many times in the past. I'm not going to do it again. Davonte Booker, I don't care if I have you unless I'm absolutely desperate. Because, look, there are the Falcons are on bye week this week. The Saints are on bye. The Jets, meh, and the 49ers. So, look, there might have been some players on your starting roster, but probably not a ton. Maybe, a few Niners. Are you starting Davonte Booker this week, Mike?
He's the one that I am starting.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
So, the one league that I had the opportunity to pick him up in, I'm running back week, right? So okay. I had Barkley, and he was really starting to come on ever since they won the game in overtime against the Saints. That was nice. Yep. He had a really nice week that week. Good. Yeah,
he was looking explosive. Yep. Oh man.
And even against Dallas, he looked fine. He just, the way that he hurt his ankle. I don't know if you saw the picture, because of just the size of his quads and everything, and his calves and everything, but his ankle is so swollen. It literally looks like someone took a softball and just put it underneath his skin on the outside of his ankle. That's how swollen that thing is.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's huge. It was huge. But that was like directly after the game. But my point is that what do we know about Daniel Jones? Is he healthy? Is he going to play this week? Because he was in concussion protocol.
He was concussed. No, it's looking like he practiced all week. I think he's going to play this week. Yeah.
Okay. I would. Booker got in and got some carries and got some space and stuff like that. The Rams are a team that obviously they're in the NFC West, so I'm pretty familiar with them. their front seven hasn't really been. I mean, Aaron Donald, yeah, but the rest of them, in my opinion, haven't really been playing to their potential to help out Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's going to take a double team every time he's on the field, but there's opportunities for the run game to go there. The main question is, do the Giants have an offensive line that could help out Booker? And is Booker going to be that guy? I don't think so either, but I'm just taking a risk this week because I don't have any other choice because my other guy is
times call for desperate measures, right?
So the other guy I have as a running back is the Jets running back, their rookie. Give me his name.
Well,
Carter?
the Jets, yeah, Michael Carter. Yeah, well, the Jets are on bye, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're on a bye, right? So I didn't have a choice. And so I had to. He was the best available. I had to snag him. I'm like, man, let me throw a couple of, if there's any Catholic people out there, let me throw a couple of Hail Marys up and hope that this works. So,
did you play him last week? You got the touchdown for it. I think you got like 13 points in the PPR. That was pretty respectable. Michael Carter last week.
Oh yeah, I played him last week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. He was one of my flex plays last week, so that one kind of worked out. That's like hold your damn nose.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I don't normally like to give you fantasy nerds credit, but I'll tell you right now. I listened last week and I heard you talking about him, and I'm like, you know what? Just let me try it out, and I wasn't disappointed. So I was happy I played him. And then I wanted to play him again this week, but then I was like, I saw he had a bye, and I was like, no,
Yeah. Well, it was the London game, right? So there's always the bye. It's Miami Jacksonville London, I think, this week. That's going to be just awful. Another disgusting game.
I don't think they've ever had a London game that's been worth anything for as long as they've been in London.
Not really. Listen, okay, so it's just Kyle Pitts at least came out last week, right? Like it was kind of the Kyle Pitts come out show. He got the touchdown. He got something like 7, 8, 9 receptions. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he came out, right? Or had the big breakout week. I would say that was probably the extent of, hey, this is worth it. But to get up, I mean, I'm on Mountain Time, so it's 7:30 game. To roll out of bed and say, hey, this is a game that I'm excited to watch. It's too much for me, man. And then tomorrow, same deal. Look, I'm a degenerate, so I'm going to watch it, or I'll take my dog for a walk and I'll listen on my Sirius.
Yeah.
While the game's playing, but it's not exactly like it's a barn burner. I will say though, man. Sorry, just to
go ahead.
I think that what do you think? So Sunday night game is Seahawks and Steelers. That should be an interesting game, right? I mean, it's two historically good teams, but Big Ben is, let's call it, his backup at best, and then Gino Smith. Is that a game that you're excited to watch on Sunday night?
I'm excited. I'm excited to watch it from a Seahawks fan perspective. So
yeah.
I'm excited to watch it because what we did see from Gino last Thursday was something that when you really look at it, Gino carved up the Rams when he came in. He got 10 points in about 3 minutes, and he was in position to go on the game-winning drive. If it wasn't for Tyler Lockett tripping or getting tripped, falling, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever it was. I think that at worst, the ball that he threw that was the interception would have been a incompletion or something. And so I just want to see more from him, right? Like this happens all the time I'm not making an excuse for Geno Smith's career here, but this happens all the time when guys enter the league. When you are good in college, and Trevor Lawrence is living that story currently. When you are good in college and you go early in a draft, you unfortunately have to go to a team that's not very good. And so Gino went from the Jets to the Giants, and so neither one of those teams were good in his time there. Part of that could have been his fault, sure. But I'll tell you that I think Gino just kind of being under the tutelage of Russell Wilson and learning from him and just realizing that Russell's an Iron Man and you're not going to get to play and living in that reality. It's been a good opportunity for him to learn, whether it's things about character maturity, really hunkering down and getting to study things and look at film in a different way with a different lens. I think he's learned. I still think he has the ability to throw the ball. But the facts in this situation are you do have you do have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to throw to, and so who's going to complain about that? I know I wouldn't. I'm like, that's two. I mean, we're talking duo receivers in the NFL. That's a great duo, in my opinion.
I think that the really simple analysis here is that he's going to probably favor DK just because I think DK is going to be more forgiving, whereas like Russ is an absolute marksman, right? So he's going to be able to get Tyler Lockett on those routes, the precision routes, and he can put the ball exactly where only Tyler Lockett can catch it. I don't know if Gino can do that. I mean, history tells us he can't, but it's been a number of years since we've seen him on the field. So who knows? Maybe he can. But brother, let's get to some of our filthy, nasty flex plays of the week. All right, get us started, Mike. Who's your first flex play of NFL Week 6?
Okay, so normally you guys like to go running back, receiver, all that good stuff.
Oh no, this is just already so filthy. I can smell it through the freaking computer over here.
I'm gonna go with the quarterback here.
Oh, okay.
So, and this one caught me off guard as I was doing a little bit of research, just because it was like in the past when we talked about Kirk Cousins, I think the narrative around Kirk Cousins has always been, oh, that guy sucks. And then you look at his stats at the end of the season and you're like, he stacks up with some of the elite guys,
Yeah.
So this is one of those situations. The guy I'm bringing to the table is Carson Wentz.
Ooh, okay.
Carson Wentz has averaged 22.58 fantasy points this season. That's an average. And his basement is 17.5 points, right? He plays he's if you own any Michael Pittman Jr. Shares there, you probably aren't disappointed. He's been getting the ball out to him. That guy is with the absence of T.Y. Hilton, that guy has been showing up big time. And he's been performing. The big thing for me this week is Carson Wentz gets a chance to play Houston, right? So Houston is obviously not very good. Of the five
unless you're the Patriots, Houston's basically a get right team for you.
Right. So of the 5 quarterbacks that Houston has faced this season so far, the only one not to hit the 17-point mark in fantasy has been Mac Jones. So sorry to throw that out there, but they have Indy has the weapons, right? So I trust in Frank Reich. I think he's an excellent coach. I really like him, and I like the way he draws things up. And so there's nothing wrong with that. So let's just keep if I'm kind of like my quarterback's on a bye week and Carson Wentz is out there, I'd snag him up if I were you, just because if he's averaging 22.58, that's an average. And he's never gone below 17.5 points this season so far.
The games he's finished, the games where he had the bum ankle, he didn't. I think he put up like 7 points, but we'll give him a write off on that. He literally didn't have any ankles.
So that's what I did a little bit of research on that too. So I believe in that game he had 12 or 13 fantasy points. So that brought his average down. So if we were going to eliminate that game, his average of 22.58 would probably be a little bit higher. So that's, to me, if I'm in the market for a quarterback just to play 1 week, I'm playing Carson Wentz this week.
So I like that. I like the fact that he's actually going to Michael Pittman. So I'm going to share a few numbers for Michael Pittman. So his target share in the season is 25.14%, which is fantastic. He's getting 8.6 targets per game. And he's had 29 receptions so far on the season. So here's the thing. Michael Pittman's kind of the big body type player that you expect him to score touchdowns. He only has 1 touchdown on the season so far for 368 reception yards. So I think the touchdowns are going to come. It could come this week against Houston. Finally, JT is showing the people why we were drafting him, why we were banging the table saying, listen, I know that Carson Wentz is looking hurt. I know that his O-line isn't as good as we thought it was going to be coming into the season because of injuries, but Jonathan Taylor is an absolute monster. He's very similar to Saquon Barkley in the sense that he can take any friggin' touch for a 50-yard touchdown. We saw it last week. I think it was like his first couple touches of the game. Last week, he took it to the house. I like it this week. I am notably not a Carson Wentz guy. I used to be an apologist, and now I'm just like whatever. But look, bye weeks are here, man. Uh, you have to start making some of these decisions, and I don't hate it. I don't hate it. You want to help Bali out here? Let's see what
Yeah,
we're gonna
let's
do
do
here.
that.
All right, so Bali, it's a PPR. He needs to bench one. Okay, so he has AJ Brown. Are you gonna bench Julio Jones, Marvin Jones, or Kadarius Toney? To me, this is an easy one. It's Julio, right?
On who we're gonna bench? Yeah, it's Julio.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to bench Julio. Look, Marvin Jones, he hasn't really done much, but DJ Chark is out. And some of these London games can get messy. Marvin Jones was still Trevor Lawrence's top target. Kadarius Toney, how the hell are you going to bench Kadarius Toney after last week? I guess Sterling Shepard is back, but the thing about Kadarius Toney that I like is the fact that they weren't just playing him in the slot, right? Sterling Shepard is definitively their slot wide receiver. Kadarius Toney can get it done on the outside. Kenny Galladay is fucking dust. I'm sorry. He was the guy that we were kind of hyping as like he was going like the 5th to 6th round in drafts, and we were hyping him as a value at that point. Look, he's just not right. And for whatever reason, he has no chemistry. I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago where he was yelling at Daniel Jones on the sideline. Kadarius Toney was doing some yelling too and some hitting, but that's the good kind. I mean, he's jacked up. So you're starting Kadarius Toney, you're starting Marvin Jones, you're benching Julio. I mean, look, Julio's hurt. The Titans just haven't looked the same. And I'm not playing both AJ Brown and Julio Jones. I just can't do it at this point.
Yeah,
The Titans
there's no
just
way.
aren't. We talked about it at the start of the show. So hopefully that helps you out there, Bully. All right. So actually, I was going to talk about Michael Pittman as one of my flex plays. I was going to talk about Kadarius Toney as one of my flex plays, but I'm going to get a little bit filthier here. I think a viable flex play this week for those Washington football team, DeAndre Carter going up against Kansas City. Curtis Samuel is out. Diami Brown is out. And look, he got 8 targets last week, and he looked kind of decent. So Terry McLaurin is an absolute monster. But if they're going to have any hope at all at keeping up with Kansas City, they're going to have to throw the ball. I think it could be a J.D. McKissick week, much to everybody, including Brandon DAdam19 on Twitter, who is the official Antonio Gibson truther. It's going to be one of those types of games, man, and it's going to be frustrating. But I think J.D. McKissick, if you got him, you can start him. And if you have the nasty, the filthy, and look, DeAndre Carter in competitive leagues is still available on your waiver wire. So go take a look. If you need some help, he's a viable flex play this week. What say you, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
It's
it is, but if you
I
look
like to get stinky, man. That's how I roll.
if you look at Washington, it's a we call it filthy, stinky, whatever, but it's a necessary evil in this moment, right?
Yeah.
Just because it's like you look across at everything and you're like, man, what else do they have? Of course, you got to go there, you know.
The game is a 54.5 over under, and KC is favored by 7 points.
Right.
That means that Washington's going to have to throw the damn ball. Taylor Heinicke's not just going to be able to run it to win that game. Who else you got? Give me one more, Mike.
Okay. I got. Let's take wide receiver from Arizona, Rondale Moore.
Ooh, Rondale Moore. Yes.
So, if you look at his target share, I would say he's and just the number of snaps that he's taken, he's largely listed as a wide receiver 4. Which, if you're in Arizona and you're like, oh, should I get this guy? I'm a diehard Cardinals fan. Should I get this guy? I don't know. It would probably sway your decision, but allow me to outline a couple of things for you that might help you. So, first of all, they're playing Arizona's playing Cleveland this week, and the spread is just 3 points. So there's that for you. One thing I would say is Rondale Moore is not going to be one of those guys that just comes in and gets a bunch of targets, but Cleveland is actually the 10th worst team in the NFL when it comes to splash plays. Those drive nighters, those you need a big chunk to kind of get the confidence going, get everything flowing in the right direction, right? So Cleveland is the 10th worst in the NFL at that.
I like that.
Which is crazy to think about when you think about just all the names that they have on their defense, right? And so Rondale Moore, in my opinion, could be a difference maker this week. He could have some if we're talking splash plays, forgive me, I don't have his 40 time in front of me, but I know he's got some
He's
wheels.
fast. He's
and I
actually
know,
fast.
yeah, I know he's got wheels, and I know he's got hands, right? So, Kyler Murray loves to chunk that thing. So if you're looking for a guy, Rondale Moore could be your guy. I could see him in a situation where he just catches a couple of deep balls and is the difference maker for Arizona against the Cleveland Browns this week.
So his 40 time, which was, again, it was his combine, or was not his combine time, it was his pro day time, was 4.37.
Yeah,
That's what we call fast. Yeah, he's got the burst, he's got the speed. And last week was important because he actually got more targets than Christian Kirk, which was the first week on the season. He got 6 targets. He had 8 total touches for 97 yards. So it's one of those situations where he's getting the productivity, he's getting the opportunity. It's just a matter of, okay, is he going to go and score the touchdowns? I think that's a really sharp play. Look, I think Rondale Moore is one of these players at this point where I'm probably playing him every single week because, again, I mean, if he's your wide receiver 3, if he's your flex play, he's the kind of player that can put up 25, potentially 30 points in a week because, say he gets in the end zone twice, they're getting him involved, they're playing him as a flanker, they're playing him outside, they're getting the ball in his hand, and he can take one to the house, just what we talked about, right? So as a flex play, he's the kind of player that can win in the league. And look, it's like what we say for all these teams. You want a piece of those electric offenses, right? You want a piece of the Buffalo Bills offense. You want a piece of the KC offense. You want a piece of the Arizona Cardinals offense. Rondale Moore, I love it. That's fantastic. Okay, so I'm trying to decide how filthy I want to get here.
I was about to say, I could tell by your tone you got an extra dirty one you're about to send my way.
Yeah, so, okay. Here's the thing, all right? So we just talked about those Buffalo Bills, and Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is coming out as the de facto number 2 wide receiver on the team right now. Emmanuel Sanders, he's number 14 in air yards, and he's number 12 in completed air yards. Okay, so we know Stephon Diggs, it's been slow, but do not despair, ladies and gentlemen. Stephon Diggs is still getting the opportunity. He just is not getting those touchdowns, okay? And also, he's not actually converting those receptions as much as he typically does. So that's one thing to say. Cole Beasley, the bees, he has disappointed. He's had 2 targets the last 2-3 weeks, and he's just not getting it done on the field. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, with confidence, with that Monday Night Hammer, I'm saying go ahead and start Cole Beasley this week going up against Tennessee. I think he's going to continue to produce, man. Look, last year, he was Josh Allen's guy, right? And obviously, Emmanuel Sanders coming in, it makes you worried a little bit. But Cole Beasley could be another one of those situations where I think that Buffalo is going to light up Tennessee. Tennessee is horrendous against the pass. Right now, they're actually the worst team against the pass in the league. And that means every wide receiver, whether you've got Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, you want to start these players this week. And the best part is, my favorite part about playing Monday Night Players is it breaks the heart of your opponent. And it's all about breaking it, because that's why we play fantasy football, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
Like, I like to see, if I'm playing you in fantasy football, I want to see tears. I want to see you squirming in your seat. I want to see the curses coming across the league chat when Cole Beasley goes and gets 11 receptions for 55 yards, but he gets that all elusive touchdown.
Yeah.
I love it. What say you, man?
Yeah, I like it. I was actually I was looking at Cole Beasley myself for one of the flex plays, but I left it alone just because what I was reading about Cole Beasley quickly went to what he thinks about vaccinations, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I'm tired of reading this, and so
it's too much.
Yeah, I just kept it moving. I'm like, let me find someone else, But as you know, I live in Texas. I live in the Dallas area. Cole Beasley was previously in Dallas, and he actually went to SMU, Southern Methodist University, which is here in Dallas. And he was told while he's at SMU, hey, live it up because you're not going to the league, right?
Yeah.
And he went out and he made the Cowboys roster, and he played pretty well for the Cowboys. That's really where he made his name. Gave him the ability to be signed by Buffalo because of that. I've always liked Cole Beasley. He is a smaller guy, shifty. he's a great route runner. He can stop on a dime. There's a lot of things that if you're just looking at the film of everything that you like about Cole Beasley. For a defense that likes to be physical and hit people, Cole Beasley is very frustrating because he's hard to get. He's hard to get your hands on. You want to hit him and knock the snot out of him, but it's frustrating because you can't ever touch him. You know what I mean? And so he's a good guy that can run. Your drag routes, your stop routes, your just slants, all the quick stuff, right? And so if you get Cole Beasley, I could envision a world where he has 11 catches for 55 yards and that touchdown like you were talking about,
Yeah.
And in a PPR league, that's love those 11 catches. You want those 11 catches. So that's awesome. I think it's a great pick. I almost picked it myself.
There you go. We love it when it's consensus. I mean, the only thing that worries you a little bit is that it could be a good get-right game for Stephon Diggs as well. And he gets like 15 targets. And,
which I own some of that Stephon Diggs, so like I'm okay with him going out and creating a little bit of chaos for me. So I'll take it. We love
it. We love the chaos. There you go. All right, Mike, we're gonna end it there. So why don't you tell the good people how they can find you on Twitter and what you're doing right now?
Well, Twitter handles right here below my screen at FlexMike11 on Twitter. I'm really just right now I'm coaching football here in Texas and kind of rocking out. I'm always watching sports or whatever. So if you want to talk about NFL action, I'm always in on it. I dabble in the fantasy, do the fantasy a little bit, but I'm real heavy on just what's going on with the league as a whole, players, stuff like that. I keep up with the breaking news, all that good stuff. And of course I have my own strong opinions about things like anybody else, but that's what I'm doing.
Awesome, Mike. Yeah, we got to get you on the show more often, dude. It's always nice having you on. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Flex Network 1. We are all about fantasy football, but of course, once in a while we get some smart football takes. Probably good chance that maybe Flex Mike will tune in or will chime in on some of those. So thank you for those for listening. Hopefully our Flex plays pay off. Of course, if you like what you were listening to, please like and subscribe. It goes a long way. If you provide comments on our videos, comments of our podcast, we really appreciate it. It goes a long way. Help us out. We're just a small company. We're trying to grow. And listen, at the end of the day, we're just here to talk fantasy football, which is what we love. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Mike, for coming on. So for Brandon, for Flex Matt, for Season Long says, I am Flex Shane, and we are the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody.